cases. Surely a crackdown and a ban will never suffice. But what do you think of the larger challenge that India is facing? Because interestingly, this challenge is not just within of homegrown terror from Secy to PFI, but we are seeing strands of this anti-India forces coming together across the globe now.
Yes. Shivani ji, I'm not a political activist, and I've been a practitioner of national security, and I can very proudly say some of the finest security professionals are my former students. So I request you to give me 2 minutes of uninterrupted audience, and I will explain the whole thing. Look, in democracies, sometimes protests can go disorderly, but this is not that. PFI is a terrorist organization, full stop. There is no confusion at all. This is an organized warfare, organized covered warfare. What they're doing, they are taking advantage of emotive identity in Islam, number one. Number two, certain violent ways of upbringing. Mr. Tarek Fatah will explain it in a different way. Medieval barbaric, which has intimidated large sections of people. They're taking advantage of it. Thirdly, organized crime. This kind of organization, you have said, you pointed it out, how they have been involved in money laundering and a shade of things. And this gentleman who's coming, if Government of India gives me an opportunity, I'm sure some of my bright students will establish in a matter of days that he is acting as a kind of proxy to rationalize it, because PFI has managed to recruit a lot of people in civil society, in media, in political parties, infiltrated. Some of them are paid collaborators, some of them are ideologically motivated collaborators, and they justify this thing. What is their objective? They want to set up an Islamist kind of state. And even if an Islamist state is not possible, they want to run a parallel system. And they're taking advantage of our political system, political class, for sake of mobilization or whatever reason. They have to fall back upon these people. They have to quote these people. They provide muscle power. Sometimes they fall back upon it. And we are also very careful that we do not offend our Muslims, our Muslim population. But let me tell you, they do not represent genuine Muslims of India. Good number of them who have worked as my colleagues, my friends, my students. So they are a kind of organized criminals, a tool of covert warfare against India, and our systems are not in a position to fight this kind of warfare. So I'll request you not to give your platform to these terror apologists and terror propagandists who are abusing your platform to carry out this kind of propaganda. A terrorist, first time, it exploits the loopholes of the systems, launders money, indulges in drug crime, indulges in all kinds of things. And they recruit people like this gentleman, whosoever he is, to come to your TV channel and rationalize their things and hoodwink people and emotionally exploit them. I complete, Shivani ji. Thank you for this.
No, we are all waiting for an official ban on the organization called PFI. The SDAPI continues to be a registered political party in India. So if there are grave concerns, as you're very well raising, we hope that the agencies are going to take action. It's not just enough to socially ostracize them, but they are ultimately registered with the Election Commission. Tarek Fatah, I come to you on the point. One second, sir. Tarek Fatah, I come to the point that Mr. Ojha is raising. This is organized warfare. It wants to basically supersede democracies and all non-Islamic systems with political Islam. They use barbaric, Talibanized form of Islam, and that's what they're propagating in the garb of suppression of Muslims and Muslim identity. How do you see this? Because we're seeing what's happening even in Leicester, for example. All sound the same.
They're all the same, but our system allows them to state emphatic lies and deny everything. And unfortunately, most of the rest of the world is gullible enough to succumb to this threat that we will call you a racist or an Islamophobe. So you will notice that even observation of 9/11 anniversaries are subdued because everyone is scared. What will this Muslim group, which aspect of a Muslim community is radicalized? Who are the victims from within the Muslim community that are radicalized by Jamaat-e-Islami types? Or this is clearly Muslim Brotherhood tactics learned from the Communist Party and implemented over there. They've learned a lot from the association with the CPI as well over the long years. But nobody should forget the Mopla rebellion.
Yes.
Nobody should ever forget that while we are looking elsewhere, the most radical aspects of Jihadi Islam were in the Malabar coast. We might think that, the Kashmiri radicals are doing this or that, or something happened in Bangladesh. We seem to forget where the connections are. the large part of the Kerala population that now works in the Persian Gulf areas. A lot of them associate their identities with Arabized, Wahhabi Islam that are in contradiction to what is Indian Islam, but yet that has infused because of the money that comes in from remittances or some underground organizations. I've lived 10 years in Saudi Arabia, and when I've met someone from Kerala over there, I've asked about Ashita Menon or Nabudripad, and they give me a blank stare. This was the first time I met someone from Kerala, and they were more into the pan-Islamist thing, and they were quite shocked that I was enthusiastic to learn about Namboodiripad as to what was his contribution. I was just fascinated that Kerala had a 95% literacy rate. However, the Islamic identity today overshadows, and when I say Islamic identity, I mean the Islamic identity of the Indian subcontinent, the Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi. You won't find Iranians in this. They are burning hijabs. You go to Karnataka and they want hijabs. Yeah. You go to Saudi Arabia, MBS is opening up employment to women. Women can drive cars. You go to Egypt, you go to Turkey, you go Iran, there's a revolution going on against the mullahs. But when you come to this narrow part of radical Islam under, I don't know why they call themselves the SDPI, there's nothing social democratic about them, but it's a political party as a front to give them legitimacy.
Yes.
PFI would be, this is so typical of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's almost as if they used that formula and applied it to the Kerala state. Okay, this is how we'll do it.
Mr. Fatah, do you believe that with this crackdown, the Indian government has finally woken up, and will it see it to its logical conclusion? Will a ban suffice, or do we need to do more?
I hope so, because this is an ideological fight in which Indian Muslims should be empowered to take on these radicals. There are almost every Muslim that I know or converse with is fed up with the Deoband and the mullahs and the people who want jihad in or niqab or hijab or whatever the Carnatic case is now with the Supreme Court. Unless and until sensible Indian Muslims like the governor of Kerala, like the many men and women who come on your shows and talk about being Indian before they are anything else. Unless we take the route of Mr. Ambedkar and believe in as our identity as the Indian Constitution and not look for loopholes in the Indian Constitution to create separatism.
Yes.
That's the problem. The majority community has been generous enough to have out of the first 5 education ministers, 4 were Muslim. It would never happen in an Islamic country. Why don't these people realize that you will never have a Hindu as a Pakistani president or a Bangladeshi president or Afghanistan? They've eliminated everyone. India is the only place in the developing world where Muslims can vote.
And yet, India is maligned so much on the global stage as oppressing Indian Muslims who flourished in India. But you are right about exploiting, what the Indian Constitution gives. And that's where radical organizations like the PFI come in. They will continue to broaden this wedge. They'll never be satisfied with anything. Today it is hijab, tomorrow it will be burqa also.
India has to make its case like Al Jazeera has made it for Qatar. India has tremendous wealth of journalists, but none of them are on the international scene. I mean, how can Qatar have Al Jazeera and we can only suffice with Republic TV or your channel or have debates? We are not getting across to the rest of the world. India is one country. The Islamic countries are 54. Your truth is one. At United Nations Human Rights Council, the Islamic dictatorships and horrible leaders are 54.
Right.